Okay, so let's get into learning Spanish lesson one. This guy in the picture behind the title right here is a man named Jose Doroteo Arango Arambula, but he's better known as the name Pancho Villa. And this is not a history lesson per se, but Pancho Villa was an extremely important figure in Mexican history. He was a Mexican revolutionary, infamous man. He was a drunk, he was a thief, he was a vagabond, he was the governor of Chihuahua at one point. He was a very interesting man, and that's all I'll say about him for now. But he was an extremely important um, figure and had a lot of power, especially in the early 1900s within Mexico. And if you want to learn more about Mexican influences in today's culture and subcultures, this is a man to start reading about and learning about. Pancho Villa. Okay, so Spanish is an incredibly popular language. About 7.5% of the world speaks it. It's the most common second language in the U.S. This is the most important part of this slide. The dialects of Spanish differ greatly based on where the Spanish is spoken. Okay, if you didn't know, the Spanish that is spoken in Spain is entirely different than the Spanish that is spoken in Honduras, Chile, Mexico, Caribbean, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, etc. Even within Mexico, there's different accents depending on the region that you're in. So, speaking of Mexico, let's talk Mexico. Where did the word Mexico come from? Why does Mexico speak Spanish? How did Mexican culture form, etc.? The politics of Mexico, we'll touch on that in a little bit. All right, so where did Mexico come from? Back in New Year's Day, 1519, there was a Spanish conquistador named Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba, who left from Cuba after they had already settled Cuba right here. They came down around this Yucatan Peninsula where Cancun, modern day Cancun is, and they landed somewhere around Veracruz, today's Veracruz. Okay. Um, this is by no means the start of Mexico because Mexico has been inhabited as a civilization, not just like a hunter gatherer society with some teepees around, but an actual society, a booming metropolis in a way with pyramids and established religions and societies, big cities that had formed capital cities, economies, etc., trade. Um, it has existed since probably as early as 1100 BC. And there were entire civilizations here, both the Aztec, the Mayans, the Tlaxcala. Very interesting history about that, especially with the Tlaxcala. But we'll cover that at a later point. So the word Mexico is not Spanish. It comes from the Nahuatl language, which a lot of Mexican city names and other, I guess you could call it harder to pronounce, like non-traditional Spanish words, they will actually be named after this Nahuatl language. Like, for example, Chihuahua, um, Tamaulipas, names like that don't come from Spanish, they come from the Nahuatl language, which is the language of the Aztecs. Okay, Oaxaca, I believe, perhaps might be another one. Um, but here, Mexico comes from the Nahuatl words for moon, navel, and place. Okay, so Metztili, Hictli, and Co, you put them together, and it's like the place that is the center of the moon. Okay, so that was Mexico, the place that is the center of the moon. The navel in the sense of it's the center. Okay, now getting right into the language. That was a quick pivot from history straight into the language. When you're learning Spanish, the first thing that you should learn is the verb to be. That's how you say I am, you are, he or she is, we are, you are, as in y'all are, they are. Okay, this is what you want to learn. So It's not as hard as it looks, but there's some few things that you need to point out. First, you need to know what a pronoun is. A pronoun are these things to the left of the of this word. Okay, these are what is over here that precedes the verb. All right. So first off, what's going on here with am, are, is, are? This is not the same as be. In languages like this, you'll have what's called an infinitive. Basically, that's just like the first most plain form of the verb. So ser in Spanish, ser changes the same way that to be changes in English. If I want to say I am in English, that does not have anything to do with to be. I do not say I to be. I say I am. The same way I don't say they to be, I say they are. Now, in Spanish, this form of to be is for static things. Don't need to worry about that right now. All you need to worry about is this is how you say to be. Okay, so for ser, I am. We'll say, I am a man. You are a student. He is a doctor. She is a nurse. We are friends. You all are my friends. They are also my friends. Okay? So these words, ser changes the same way that to be changes. Yo is I in Spanish. Yo soy. Ser turns to soy when it's I. It changes to eres when it's you, and you in Spanish is tú. So that's tú eres. Tú eres. You are. Singular. Okay, this is the singular side, this is the plural side, if you didn't pick that up already. Él is he. Ella, the two L's, just like in the word quesadilla, is pronounced like a Y in Spanish. So, ella es. He or she is. Nosotros, we, somos. Ser turns to somos. Nosotros somos. We are. Ustedes, you all, son, are. And same way, son, ser, son. Ellos son. They are. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, wait a minute, ustedes son and ellos son. Son is the same. And that's correct. So, how would you know what they're talking about? Well, context is how you would know, or the addition of the pronoun. Okay, so in Spanish speech, hearing son, it could mean you all, could mean they, but you'll know from the context or the addition of a pronoun to be specific. So there's no need to worry there. This chart is just one of those things where you have to memorize it. So to say to be, this is the hardest part of beginning to learn Spanish is memorizing this chart. Okay, so take a mental snapshot or take an actual snapshot of this screen, and then we will proceed to the next exercise. We'll say, what are you? Okay, so we'll do an exercise of saying I am and then the following titles. Okay, in Spanish, you don't have to add anything else. You just say I am. For example, you would say I am engineer. You are lawyer. He is doctor. You don't have to add any kind of articles like a doctor or he is the American. He is the Mexican. You just say he is whatever. In the same way that you would say he's American in English or he's Mexican. You don't necessarily have to say he's an American or he's the Mexican. You can just say he's whatever or she's whatever. So, keeping in mind the previous slide, we're going to say you are a lawyer. Well, first let's read each word. Okay, so engineer. In Spanish, it's ingeniero. Ingeniero for males and ingenieria for females. Now, this is important because that is abbreviated as ING, okay, short for ingeniero. All right. Lawyer, abogado, or abogada if it's a female. A woman lawyer is abogada. All right. And that is abbreviated, that title is abbreviated LIC for licenciada. Basically, again, Spanish is very similar to English in so many words. Licenciada is one of those words. It's licensed, essentially. Doctor, okay. Doctor or doctora, doctora, excuse me, or médico also. Médico, médica. And abbreviated similar to the English, DR for doctor, masculine, DRA for feminine, for doctora. Okay. American. Most of you probably already know how to say this. Americano, okay, or americana. Americana for female. Mexican, mexicano, mexicana for feminine. All right. So let's say I am a lawyer. How would I say that? Yo soy abogado. All right. How would I say she is a lawyer? Ella es abogada. Okay. Notice I said abogada because it's ella. I'm talking about a woman. Ella. She is a lawyer. We'll say for doctor. What if I wanted to say, and this is another good point, what if I wanted to say we are doctors? Spanish pluralizes their nouns the same way that English does by essentially adding an S. Perhaps not as simple as that, but it's at least an S sound. And in Spanish, the plural for doctor is doctores. Doctores. Nosotros somos doctores. Doctores. Okay? Doctores. Nosotros somos doctores. Somos doctores. We are Americans. Somos americanos. We are Americans. Ellos son mexicanos. They're Mexicans. Son mexicanos. Okay. Additionally, because the verb ser is so different between all the pronouns, oftentimes the pronouns themselves can be omitted because through the context of the verb itself having changed, you can infer what pronoun they're talking about. But we'll practice with the pronouns for now. So I am an engineer. Yo soy ingeniero. What if I wanted to say you are a engineer? Tú eres ingeniero. Okay. Tú eres abogado. You are a lawyer. What if I said ellos son americanos? They are Americans. Okay. It's just that simple. But that concludes the first Spanish lesson. Thank you for watching.